So in India, if you've seen in the last few years, the more of a discussion which have been going around on internet, that the challenge of skill sets, the development of skill sets in India. If you talk about last 2 to 3 years, the skill sets development, the reports which has come out, one of the most talked about subject is the challenges, the employability, and also the quality of skill sets. To talk more about that, today we have got Sachin Gupta, co-founder and CEO of HackerEarth. Welcome, Sachin.
Thank you.
So, Sachin, I would like to start with the same very topic that if you see in India, I think 2 years before there was a report which used to say that 80% of engineers are unemployable. And last year, the report has in fact become a little more concerning because it says that 95% of engineers in India are unemployable.
Correct.
What's your take on that?
Well, I wouldn't vouch for those kind of numbers, but the situation is bad. Whether it's 50% or it's 80%, I mean, that's still a bad number, right? The challenge, why this situation exists and why this threat is real is we'll have to step back a bit. We need to go back and look at what were the macro changes that took place in our economy probably a decade ago, or let's say 2 decades ago. With the rise of services businesses like Infosys and Wipro, what happened was that there was suddenly a demand for this software developer, and when these companies started, there was actually a dearth of software talent. And if you look at the middle class, middle class India, we are shortage of jobs, and there's shortage of jobs. We want jobs that can uplift our whole family, not just us. And suddenly the Wipros and Infosys of the world, they became game changers because they not only gave you employment, which was rewarding, but you also got a chance to go out on the world stage and then prove your mettle. This led to a sudden demand of talent. And what happened was there was not enough demand. So our university education system tried to catch up. And the thing is that anything can be converted to business in India, right? We obviously had a good set of premium institutes coming out, even private sector, the likes of BITS Pilani and IIIT Hyderabad. They've proven that it doesn't matter whether it's private or public. If good infrastructure is provided, you can create good talent. But then there was this sudden spike of colleges all across the country in every nook and corner, which was essentially a business for the people who had abundant money. And so for a certain period of time, the demand was high, supply was low, and slowly the gap started reducing, and people thought that the demand would continue to grow, but it did not continue to grow. So today what's happening is a large portion of people who are being churned out. Two things are happening. A, we have a very large population of IT talent which is coming out, which is probably close to 1 million developers every year graduate. But if you look at the total employable IT workforce, it's about 4 million. So in a decade, if I get 10 million IT developers and my jobs are only 4 million, there's going to be a mismatch. The second thing is more recent. If you look at the services economy, and no disregard to them, but the services business run in a different way. Their whole IP is, let's say a particular services company caters to a bank. They create out a horizontal infrastructure, and then every new client is basically customization, copy and paste for them, right? They're the minor customizations. For that, you don't need product talent. You basically need people who can do customizations. Correct. But now that is declining slowly because technology has seeped in so strongly in some of these businesses. Just take example of bank today. Gone are the days when banks were the brick and mortar businesses. Today, the bank is in my phone. Correct. And the IP of a bank is less of their financial instruments and more of their technology, right? So technology itself is becoming centric to banks. So it is pretty likely that in the next 2 decades, banks will want to own their IP, right? They would want to have the technological capabilities in-house. And that's why the nature of work is changing. The nature of tasks even for services businesses are changing. So what's happened is that the quality of talent that we needed probably a decade ago is the bar has gone up significantly, but the academia has not kept pace with it. So what we were developing as talent probably 5 years ago was still matching the demand, at least in terms of quality levels. But today the quality bar is much higher because we are slowly transforming into a product nation. A lot of large MNCs have set up their back offices, and these back offices are not just for doing the grunge work. A lot of serious projects, R&D work happens here. For example, Microsoft, a big portion of the R&D works happens out of India. So similarly, Apple has recently opened up. Uber has an engineering office. So for all of them, engineering excellence is like a non-negotiable thing. So that's why the academia hasn't kept pace, and that's why we see that a large portion of the workforce is unemployable.
Great. You started HackerEarth in 2012, and we just completed 5 years. As you rightly said, that the bar has gone up, and the skill sets what has been being developing in the market by these institutions are not probably up to the mark.
Correct.
What are the major changes you have seen, or probably some of the disappointments you have faced and you have experienced in the last 5 years? Because I believe no one better than you understand the development of the skill sets in India.
To answer this, I'll have to give you the context of how the nature of skill sets have changed. Half a decade ago, we were still, as an industry, as an economy, we were still asking for the vanilla Java developers and C++ developers, because most of the legacy businesses that existed at that point of time were built on these legacy technologies. What's happened in the last 5 years is that there have been two phenomena. One is a lot of product companies have come in, as I said, and they've set up their back offices. And secondly, there's been a sharp increase in the number of homegrown startups that that we are building out. What that translates into is that today organizations are using different kind of technologies. For example, it is very easy for someone to spin up a website, a web application using Python, Django, or Ruby, right? A Java guy who's done Java for probably 10 years will never be able to. They can, but it is a painful journey. Another interesting thing that has happened is that mobile has become ubiquitous.
Correct.
I mean, it's not an option today whether I have a mobile app or not. I will have to have a mobile app, so I need to have a mobile competency as well. Same goes for data. There's been explosion of data, and like it's real and here. It's actually that's already past. Now it's more about capitalizing on that trend. So data analytics has again become one of the segments where data science, machine learning, that's again become a competency that organization need to build. And then I think AI is just picking up the trend, but AI is going to be for the next 2 to 3 years. We're going to see a lot of action there, and similarly IoT. Now all of those skills, these skills that I'm talking about, are not just pure vanilla Java, C++, the old Web 1.0 frameworks. They require special domain expertise, like data science requires you to know mathematics, and they require use of new technologies. As I said, it's very simple or easy to build out a web application in Python and Django. Now, what has happened? These are the trends, that have changed in the last 5 years. As I said, the disappointment is that our education system is still like probably 20 years. It's 2 decades old. I graduated from IIT Roorkee. I do not intend to denigrate that, but the courses that we were studying, and we absolutely need those courses, but they were of 1990s. Of course, they are the foundation, but on top of that, we need to build practical skills, right? What is machine learning? How can I build models? What is a mobile app? How do I operate in an Android framework? How do I quickly fire up a JavaScript server and build a front-end applications? These are the things, these are the skills that either the institutions need to teach, or I feel that also, there's some disconnect between industry and academia. Industry is not constantly talking to the academia and saying, hey, these are the kind of skills that I need. So academia doesn't know what exactly is required in the market today. They're still going on with their traditional curriculum, and the talent that comes out, when they're put out in this world, they're actually clueless. They do not know what to do. So that's the disappointment. I do not have a definitive answer as to who will fill this gap, but there's definitely a gap that has to be filled about developing specific skills.
Okay. So you talk about the gaps exactly, because and I completely agree with the point. What you said, there's a huge difference. Now you have got one of the largest communities of developers, and I'm sure you will be keep on talking in day out with them. Have you ever spoken this challenge with them to find out how exactly these developers are trying to make effort to keep up a pace with this fast changing environment, whether they are doing some extra curriculum, because this academic information and industrial information is 2 different sets.
Correct.
So I agree with your point, what you said, that most of these institutions, they are doing the academic job, but at the same time, parallelly, they need to have a industrial information. So on their own, what these developers are doing.
So yeah, again, a very valid question, and I've seen a change take place, particularly in the last 2 years. So when we graduated, frankly, we knew nothing. I mean, we didn't know what's Python, we didn't know what's a mobile application. It was all Greek to us. But today, I see these kids, and in some cases, even school kids. So we've done multiple hackathons, and this is one of our flagship hackathons, India Hacks. We saw a 12th class kid. He built out a machine learning model with an Android app. Okay. That's the kind of exposure I think we never had just 5 years ago. So what's happening is that the talent itself is realizing that if I don't step up, I will be unemployable. So the progressive ones, the ones who are willing to put in extra, go out an extra mile, what they're doing is they're going out on the web and they're trying to understand what can I do. And there are some sources, some more progressive organizations, they have a Campus Connect program where they keep on sharing insights. A lot of our customers, do these hackathons, and one of the reasons why they do these hackathons and challenges is to give the, the community a flavor of the kind of work that is being done. We ourselves, and this was one of the reasons, why we started HackerEarth, we've ourselves done a lot of challenges and hackathons like this, where we want to tell the community that, guys, whatever you learned is good, but this is what is out there in the industry, and this is the gap that you have to fill. Now, coming to your question of how are they trying to fill this gap, I think the best thing about computer science as a domain, as a skill, is that developing a competency in that is highly democratic. It's not like civil or mechanical where you need to have equipments and laboratories and a lot of capital expenditure goes into it. No, for computer science you need a laptop and internet connection, and there are enough resources out there. I think about 5-6 years back, these resources were scattered and difficult to mine. Today, a lot of these MOOCs have come in, online learning courses. There are tons and tons of them, which have done a good job of aggregating good content, bringing good educators from across the world, and providing a platform where people can, learn. So what I've seen increasingly people doing is, students just coming out of college or still in college, picking up courses on these MOOCs, participating in challenges and competitions and hackathons, either on HackerEarth or elsewhere as well, so that they get a sense of, they get to apply, and then talking more to their seniors, more alumni connect, trying to understand what can I do better. So I think these three things that people are doing today.
Great. You just talk about the hackathon, and off late I'm seeing that almost every company wants to go follow the same route. They want to do hackathon before they're hiring. So how exactly it's getting, how exactly this whole hackathon system is helping them to find the right kind of talent pool?
Okay, so valid point. Like, hackathon is just caught up as a rage. Everybody wants to do it, and that makes you wonder, is it a fad? And we kind of try to answer that question ourselves. Is it just a cool factor? We realize that why everybody wants to do a hackathon is because there is a tangible benefit of doing a hackathon, and I'll walk you through the process if that's okay, and we'll tell you what exactly transpires in a hackathon. Hackathon is nothing but an environment where you get a lot of creative minds and give them some interesting problems to solve. You put a time constraint, you put in some mentoring, and you ask these people to build interesting solutions. Now, there are multiple outputs of such an activity. The very first thing is you get end output, you get actual tangible solutions, you get working proof of concepts in a duration as short as 24 hours or 48 hours. So it's a very good prototyping tool. A lot of companies do hackathons internally because they want to get interesting ideas and very quickly convert those ideas into proof of concepts.
Okay.
If they were to do the same in their normal work, day-to-day work, it's going to take a life cycle of 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Right? So it compresses that cycle of innovation. The second thing it does is it actually picks out the folks who are skilled. So it's very easy to when you put a very objective layer saying, okay, build this. Yeah, this is my problem statement, build a solution. This is completely black and white. Like, I can claim to do 100 things, but if I can't convert that claim into something tangible, I really don't know. So it becomes a very effective mechanism for organizations, whether they're doing it internally or externally, to identify the guys which are the smarter ones or who have the capability to do it. And the third thing is, it is not like an interviewing process. So we do not recommend any organization to do hackathons just for the sake of hiring.
Okay.
Because it's kind of unfair. If you look at it, you expect somebody to spend 24 hours just for a job. It's larger than that. What a lot of organizations, the more progressive ones, and that's where we kind of work with them and help them out. The more progressive ones, what are they doing is they're taking actual business problems out of their business context and putting it out there open and saying, hey, this is a problem, this is my data, if I can put it out, this is the context, and here's my mentorship. Now, can you solve this in a different manner for me? What it does is, of course, as I said, it gives you a solution, but it also gives the other person a flavor of what this organization is doing.
Okay.
So if you look at it purely from a hiring perspective, I can identify these guys as hireable candidates, but I can also create a very strong brand on these guys, right? Because now I'm telling, this is what I do. These are the kind of challenges that I'm solving. Although 80% of the workforce is unemployable, but still companies face challenge in attracting good talent, because there's always dearth of good talent. So even for organizations, it's a very good case to build that, hey, these are the kind of problems that we are solving. And I think that's where the whole differentiation comes in, giving it a business context, making it real, getting some real solutions, and then you can obviously hire people. So just to give you an example, we work with organizations where they put out some business problems, and they were able to identify up to 3 to 4 teams who they have now taken up into their R&D centers, and they're working with them.
Okay.
So you not only hired somebody, that's still secondary, but you now got an idea, a working proof of concept, and now that team is working with your team to take it to the next level. Imagine the pace. Why do people hire, right?
Correct.
I want to quickly build out the product.
Correct.
This just accelerates the whole thing.
But don't you feel like for a company there is a branding, then there is a finding the right kind of skill sets, but then I believe how many people generally do get hired in terms of percentage? Let's say 80, like the 20%, then 80% of those people get rejected. So what is there for those 80% of people who come and who spend their time and effort in the company?
A lot of things. See, that's why I said people who participate in these hackathons don't think of it as a let's say a weekend drive. It's not a weekend drive for them, because if it's a weekend drive, then it's waste of my effort, right? There are multiple benefits that participants get. First is the very act of networking.
Okay.
When I go there as a developer, I meet 100 other developers who will have complementary skills or who will be more expert at what I'm doing, right? Okay. Let's say an AngularJS developer who's just fledgling developer, just starting to pick it up, can go there and meet a senior developer and spend 24 hours. Believe me, that's invaluable. You don't get that kind of mentorship anywhere else. So it's the network that you get. A lot of developers also attend these hackathons to develop their skills. Okay. I have seen some of the developers come in without having any knowledge of a certain technology. For example, let's say it's IoT. They come in just because they want to learn IoT. All right. They'll spend 12 hours of the 24 hours to learn that bit and then apply it. So even if they don't get a job or they don't win, even if they're in the 100th position, for them it's time well spent because I learned something out of it. So I think networking combined with learning, and then the whole process of getting to know and talking to the industry leaders. Let's say if I work with, Facebook is hosting a hackathon, how many chances would you get to talk to a Facebook senior engineer otherwise? Correct. Right? But in a hackathon, I can come in there and they'll not only talk to me, they'll mentor me. So I think that industry connect also becomes one key vital benefit for the participants. So
there are lots of perks involved for Absolutely. The hackathon, and probably because by realizing these perks and everything, today if you see, almost every company is trying to do hackathon. Some of them trying to do in-house, and some of them trying to reach out to experts like you. How do you see this growth or this trends of hackathon? Do you think it is going to be there for a very, very long time, or the companies who are doing in-house, they are really going to face some more challenge and they have to think about doing it as a expert job, and they should rely completely on companies like you, or they can do it in-house?
I would say it all depends on the scale of the and how seriously an organization takes it. So if I am doing one small hackathon once a year, I can actually make a team of 4 or 5 people and do a scrappy job and pull it off, and I'll get some benefit out of it. But if an organization is serious about it, they want to institutionalize this. They want to do it internally on a regular basis for innovation and crowdsourcing. They want to do it externally for again crowdsourcing ideas, finding good talent, employer branding. Then like everything else, it needs to have a process. Okay. Right? It needs to have a process, best practices. There has to be a workflow, there has to be documentation. At the end of 1 year, I need to understand what's my ROI. And that cannot happen unless you are using a professional platform. So what we provide to customers is, of course, the whole platform for running it end to end, where all your analytics, all your documentation goes into it, and this becomes like a dashboard. And of course, having done close to, I would say, about 200, 300 odd corporate hackathons, and having supported another 500 odd hackathons across universities and tech communities, we have I would say a lot of experience in the best practices. So that kind of comes as part of the package. So to answer your question, all those who are serious, they would have to institutionalize, and of course there has to be a small team within the company who's the owner of this whole thing. Right, okay. Like any other thing, but they will have to go out and make it more professional and seamless.
Okay. In terms of coming to your community part, as I said that you have one of the largest community of developers, And I'm sure you'll be keep sharing day in day out what's going on in their mind. You're also talking with the organization what kind of skill set they're looking for, what technologies are they working, what technologies they see that will be prospering in next 2 to 3 years down the line. So what are the latest trends you see, and some of the things which would be shaping up in next down the lane 2 to 3 years now?
Sure. The first thing that comes top of my mind is data science.
All right.
I mean, in the last 6 months, I would say 3 out of 5 customers of ours have either worked with us on data science, or they've asked us, or they've said, hey, this is a challenge to us. 3 out of 5, so like 60% of our, and this has gone from probably 10 odd percent about a year and a half back.
Okay.
So that's the sharp increase. And data science itself has multiple facets. You've got data engineers, you've got data architects, you've got data analysts. So it's a big tree structure within this one vertical. So I don't want to drill down deeper, but yes, within that people can build a lot of competencies. Then I would say not a lot of volume. It's not a lot of volume, but it is a very specialized skill set that organizations are looking for is IoT.
Okay.
And that's going to increase. IoT is basically machine to machine and machine to human interaction. What is happening slowly is that all devices, all everything, not devices actually, any object is becoming digital. Right? Tomorrow this table can be digital table.
Correct.
Right? So that's when you would need a lot of developers who understand how to take out data from an object like this, put it out on the cloud, make sense out of it. So there's a whole layer of different competencies that are required in an IoT developer ecosystem. So that we think will become big in the next 2 years. We haven't seen a lot of demand right now, but we've heard enough enough chatter in the ecosystem to say that this is going to be big. The third thing is again AI. AI is a very, very vast topic. So I would say I would bottle it down, actually narrow it down in AI to image processing.
Okay.
Then sound processing. I think these are 2 areas where we would see a lot of mass scale requirement. Robotics and other things are still a little niche, but image processing and sound processing is going to be they're going to own the future in the next 2 to 3 years. And then immediately like data science, what we're also seeing demand, of course these are the more obvious candidates or more obvious suspects is mobile, both Android and iOS. A lot of action on front end side.
Okay.
Because earlier, Web 1.0 didn't care about how the UI looked like, as long as the application worked. Today, UI importance is paramount.
Correct.
Right? So a lot of sophistication there, charts, visualizations, and this requires serious skill. I mean, it's not
the designing kind of job.
Yeah, designing as well as implementing.
Implementation both.
Yeah, because everything is kind of moving to the client side.
Yeah.
60% of my things are processed on the browser before I send it back to the server.
Correct.
So a lot of competencies are being built there too. So just to summarize, data science, Android and front end are real here today, increasing demand. IoT and AI, with digital image processing and sound processing is what we see going forward.
And have all these things been identified by the community?
Data science has a lot of traction. We in fact have a separate data science track, both machine learning and deep learning, where we are not operating in multiple thousands, but yeah, we are seeing a growing community. Okay. Then Android and iOS, I think these technologies have been they've been tenured enough in the ecosystem. There are enough number of developers. Of course, we can always have more. Good, solid front end skills is where we see some gap. So I think the talent community realizes it and they're kind of stepping up to it. So these things, because they are real and here today, we see they can be mitigated. Of course, there'll always be shortage for good talent. IoT and AI, I think the response is there, their interest is there. There are specialized focus groups who are very interested and excited about these things. The numbers are low right now, but given the trend, like we've done a couple of AI things and we've seen some very good results come out of it. Like you can't even imagine the kind of applications that have been built both on the IoT side as well as on the AI front. Not in volume, but the community is responding. But it's a tough thing because it's easier to develop skills for the former three because there's enough content out there. I think a lot of content and evangelization needs to happen on IoT and AI.
And do you think India has got enough of talent to execute all these things?
Absolutely. I mean, from that perspective, never had a doubt that the nation can produce. So you look at it. These are the same guys. If you go to the Silicon Valley, 50% of the Silicon Valley software engineering is 50, maybe a little high. 30 to 40% is like what? So Indians.
Correct.
So the same people, they go and shine out there because what they get is a good infrastructure.
Okay.
If we provide the same infrastructure here, absolutely, why not? We can very easily be the hotbed of developers and product nation. And I think it's now happening.
Okay.
The organizations or companies, deep tech companies that started probably a decade ago in India are now maturing. The kind of scales the e-commerce companies are seeing today are non-trivial. So obviously the talent that is being nurtured is also good. This talent is going to give back, right? They're going to give back to the community, mentor, nurture, and then slowly it will build. I think we are about 5 to 7 years behind Silicon Valley in terms of skill sets, but as and when more product mindset develops here, we will catch up and we can beat anybody in the world if given the right environment.
All right. So the message is loud and very clear, which you have got from Sachin, and I'm sure that most of the developers is hearing what Sachin has said, and there are lots of actionable insights which they can draw from it. So I would like to conclude with this. Thanks a lot, Sachin. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. All the best. Yeah. Thank you.